You can see the little thumbnails too, can't you?
No, not anymore.
Oh, you can? Okay. So you can see the presentation and nothing else?
Correct.
Excellent. Okay, welcome to the 2022-2023 budget presentation. Thank you very much to everyone who participated in the process. Okay, first a quick overview. I'll very briefly cover some of the things that we consider when we're creating a budget for the new fiscal year. Then I'll get into a few details about the general fund and the sewer fund. And lastly, I will touch briefly on the upcoming wastewater treatment plant improvement project. So, timeline for the budget process. And I should note about the funds for anyone watching who might not be familiar with government accounting. Each fund in governmental accounting is a separate set of books that supports a specific government function. A municipality might have a library fund, a police fund, a water fund, things like that. The town of Webster has at least a dozen separate funds. Since we are a small village, we only create budgets for two funds, the general fund and the sewer fund. Okay, our budgets are considered in everything we do throughout the year, but budget planning really ramps up 3 or 4 months before the new budget comes up for a vote. In December, everyone's thinking budget all year, but I will officially give department heads a little nudge to start thinking about the upcoming budget, what projects you want to accomplish, what equipment might need to be replaced. Just put it in the front of your mind. Then in the first couple months of the new year, we meet with department heads, with the mayor, anyone else who has input about budget items. February and March, we have at least one, usually 2 or 3 budget workshops and ongoing discussions as needed to fine-tune the numbers and make it relevant decisions. And then the deadline for the public hearing on the tentative budget, which will be happening right after the presentation, is April 15th. That's the statutory deadline. And the deadline for the board to adopt the new budget is May 1st. So far, so good. We are right on track. There are a whole bunch of things that are considered in building the new budget. I'm not going to get into detail on all of them. A lot of things are just based on what has happened in the past. The budget is an estimate. Of course, we can't predict the future, but we do everything possible to make this as accurate an estimate as possible. So we look at what's happened in the past. Department heads get quotes and come up with, the best estimates they can for their specific numbers. Let's see. There it is. Some things are set, such as certain wages, lease payment amounts, debt payments, things like that. There are no questions about those. They're just what they are. Ongoing projects coming up, we either are already paying for them or we are saving up so that we can pay for them in the future. Okay, state and federal funding can have a significant impact on the number and scope of projects that we can plan for in any given year. So changes in that funding are vitally important to consider. Economic trends, we have had increases in all kinds of supplies that we can't do without them, so we have to take the increases into account. And finally, there are legal limits to the taxes that a municipality can charge. The tax cap year over year. And the constitutional tax limit is the maximum tax that can be charged, regardless of how much it has been increased. It cannot exceed a certain limit, which is based on a percentage of the assessed values of the properties in the village. Any questions so far? Y'all good?
Yes.
We're all good.
Okay. All right. The general fund. The general fund covers, for most purposes, the general fund is for everything except sewer. Okay, our tax rate this year is increasing from 218 to 222.4 per thousand in assessed value. That translates to $626,614 in property taxes. I was a little conservative in estimating the sales tax we would receive. Sales taxes have been, after a slump in 2020, sales taxes really took off, but I didn't want to be too optimistic there. So this 1.57 million is on the low end of what we might expect. Okay, state and federal aid, we're looking at $647,000 plus. Oops, sorry about that. Other revenues, those are, sale of equipment, building fees and permit fees, various things like that. So our total estimated revenues for the general fund in the upcoming year are $3 million. Thank you very much. $3,236,538. Which means that our expenditures will also total $3,236,538. Oh, here is a visual for our expected revenue sources. I've broken it down to just the 4 significant categories and lumped all the smaller ones into other. So just short of 50% of our anticipated revenues are coming from sales taxes. That's always a major source of revenue for us. Property taxes are the only thing we really have significant control over. State and federal aid, we get what we get, and we don't get upset. Okay. Budgeted appropriations, aka spending. Let's see, I'm not going to talk about every single point. Our biggest chunk is for transportation, that is road maintenance, things like that, just keeping things, keeping the roads and sidewalks and plowing all in peak form. Let's see, this 21%, the blue is for general government support. Now the office people, insurance, stuff like that. And employee benefits, the largest chunk of that is for health insurance. Anyone have questions about any of these other smaller categories?
No.
I don't.
Okay, moving on. Sewer fund. Anybody spot the cute little thing I have on this slide? Oh, are they up on the big TV?
No, it's on, you're on the white screen.
Oh, okay. Anybody see what I'm talking about?
It says, "Hi, Jerry."
There's a rubber ducky.
That's what Jake and I saw.
Rubber duck.
Anyway,
I thought it was a fire
little
hydrant.
ready. Okay. So for this year, we are keeping our per unit cost the same as last year at $195. That's a base rate of $48.75 per year. Please note, the estimated sewer revenues are a little higher than they are for the current year, even though the rate will not be changing. That's because that is due to new construction that will be serviced by the village sewer system. Let's see, other income includes revenue from the sale of old equipment and vehicles. We were planning to sell some of those vehicles in the current year, but we haven't received all the replacements yet. So we've got a couple years worth of older equipment sales rolled into that 63,000. That's why it's significantly higher than it was last year. And the only other significant revenue source here is a CDBG grant. Okay, total budgeted revenues and appropriations, $1.342 million. Here's a comparison this year versus the upcoming year. So our spending is going up a little bit. Looks like really the biggest difference is due to the other income on the second line up, and then our federal aid, we didn't get any last year. So this year is going to be 50,000 there. And then you can see that small increase in the estimated revenues on the 1, 2, 3rd row down. And let's check my notes. Okay. Estimated revenues. Almost all of it is sewer charges. I already touched on the other little pie slices there. And for appropriations, let's see. Common community service is the wastewater treatment plant. Making the toilets, keeping the toilets flushing. We have employee benefits, and I would like to touch on debt service versus transfers to reserves. The light blue slice is transfers to reserves. As probably all you know, the wastewater treatment plant has been granted an interest-free loan of over $9 million to make major improvements to the facilities. And we need to start setting money aside now to make payments on that loan, even though we won't start to make those payments for several years. So this transfer to reserves is different than the purple debt service slice of the pie. The purple slice is to make payments on existing debt that we've been making payments on for years. All right. Okay. So as I mentioned, the village has been awarded an interest-free loan, and the grant and the loan have been provided by the Environmental Facilities Corporation. Our engineering team is already hard at work, and construction is scheduled to begin next May, in May of 2023. And I should note, expenditures related to this project do not appear in the budget because we have established a special capital improvements fund for this project alone. Unlike the general and sewer fund budgets, the capital project budget does not close out at the end of the year. It lasts for the entire life of the project, and it doesn't go through the same budget approval process that we use for the other funds. That concludes my presentation. I'd be happy to take any questions, and I'm happy to stay on through the public hearing portion of the meeting.
Thank you, Marcia.
Yeah, Marcia, let's do
Thank
it.
you.
Thank you.
President.